So thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're watching us, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I am happy and privileged to be part of the Dignified Menstruation Day celebration across the world. And in this platform, I'm happy that we are going to share our experience from Kenya. My name is James Atito. I am from Kenya, and I work at Stretchers Youth Organization, a community-based organization here in Kenya that focuses on matters of human rights and good governance, gender equality, among other components in the Sustainable Development Goals. I also spearhead a menstrual hygiene management advocacy brand known as the Period Man, where I use it to sensitize, capacity build, and advocate for sustainable, dignified menstruation. Today, as we are marking the Dignified Menstruation Day 2021, I am glad that we have this platform to share and also learn from other parts of the world. In Kenya, 65% of girls and women cannot afford to buy sanitary pads. What these statistics mean is that 7 out of 10 girls cannot be able to get these important commodities when they need them. This translates to girls and women missing very important engagements. As a result, it has put a lot of girls and women into a very awkward and pathetic position, perpetrators of gender-based violence and sexual gender-based violence, to be specific, have taken advantage of this situation to draw girls into difficult situations. We've had issues of sex for pads in Kenya for a very long time. And this also resonates with other parts of the world that undergo this similar kind of challenge. It is important that today, as we are marking this important day, we remember that without addressing the issue of dignified menstruation, it is difficult for us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of no poverty, health and well-being, gender equality, quality education, among other Sustainable Development Goals. Therefore, as we're marking the 16 days of activism, and this is a platform that will help us think and celebrate the milestones we've made as far as addressing gender-based violence is concerned. The 16 days of activism against violence for girls and women is a global campaign for prevention of various forms of sexual gender-based violence. It's also a celebration to mark the success around the address of preventing sexual gender-based violence. It is a 16 days of accelerated efforts towards prevention and advocacy against sexual gender-based violence. The same is happening in Kenya. And today we are marking the second, today we are marking this day together across the globe. It is important to note that when the world decided to designate 8th of December as a day of celebrating dignified menstruation, it is with great respect and honor that all nations will gather to mark this important day. Ladies and gentlemen, it is true that menstrual discrimination itself is a form of sexual gender-based violence. In many ways, as the United Nations, menstrual discrimination affects the lives of menstruators right from the womb to the tomb. In Kenya, my experience in 2019 was very traumatizing. One day when I visited Turkana, I had gone there to train girls and women on matters of sexual reproductive health and rights, among other things, including menstrual hygiene management. And one evening when I was walking along the road together with my host, I met a group of 7 girls who were seated by the roadside. The most unfortunate part is that it was drizzling. It was raining a bit late in the evening. And these 7 girls seated by the roadside, to my surprise, when I asked the person whom I was walking with, is that the girls were menstruating. It was traumatizing because the perpetrators of this kind of cultures and taboos were the men in the communities. So the girl that we're working with told me that those girls are not allowed to sit in their homesteads during menstruation until they're able to finish their periods. You see how difficult that is for our girls here in Kenya. And I know it is not only specific to the Kenyan community, but also other parts of the world. It is during the days like this one, the 16 days of activism, that we bring out this bad behavior and work towards making a life better for our girls and women. Today's slogan, or this year's slogans, Dignified Menopause is a human right, places a very good opportunity for us to highlight the challenges girls and women go through in regards to menopause. In Kenya, this is not a conversation that every person engages in. In fact, very little discussion is going on matters menopause. We've only had a few incidences or few experiences shared by one Dr. Mteshi. Dr. Mteshi is a consultant and a fertility and a specialist with Aga Khan University. And in his articles, he has shared experiences that women go through and some of the challenges that women go through during menopause. Remember, we have our women who suffer on conditions like endometriosis and fibroids. And some of the medication that these women get mimic the situation that some women get during menopause. Like you can talk about challenges like hot flashes, change in mood swings, difficult in urination, among other challenges. So the highlights by this kind of articles helps us to understand the kind of challenges that women and girls go through during menopause. Therefore, it is important that we address the challenges girls face or women face during menopause, just as it is important to address other challenges that women face during menstruation. In many parts of the country, conversation on menopause is considered to be something to be discussed in silence, something to be discussed outside community platforms, outside public discussion, which is not the case. Men have a role to play in this. And when I began Men for Periods campaign under my brand, The Period Man, the focus was to bring as many men as possible into the platform so that they are able to address the challenges that women go through at household level. It is therefore important that as men, we engage in this conversation. We provide safe spaces for our girls and women in order for them to discuss the challenges that mostly affect them. It is not a shameful conversation to engage in. Therefore, we all need to embrace the natural and biological processes that our girls and women go through on day-to-day life. The slogan, Dignified Menopause is a Human Right, gives us a great opportunity to highlight some of the challenges that our people go through. Most importantly, men have responsibility to address these challenges, both physically, practically, socioeconomically, technologically, and even spiritually. We have to be very deliberate on the actions we take in supporting our girls in this cause. Ladies and gentlemen, today as we mark this celebration, I call upon the United Nations to focus on deliberate efforts to include and incorporate menstrual hygiene management into the review of the next Sustainable Development Goals. We know the SDGs by 2030, we shall be reviewing them. And therefore, just the same way issues around HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis are well elaborated and discussed in the Sustainable Development Goals, I call upon the UN to make sure that we deliberately mention menstrual hygiene management and menopause into the Sustainable Development Goals. I call upon governments of different parts of this world to make sure that different issues around sexual gender-based violence are addressed in their countries. There is need to have national advisory committees, the national steering committees, and county government structure their ways on how to best improve on prevention and recovery of survivors of sexual gender-based violence, among other things. Different countries, different governments needs to allocate resources to ensure that proper investment is done to sustainable development goals in order to address matters of gender-based violence. In Kenya, we are still ambitious on ending all forms of gender-based violence by 2022. Therefore, governments needs to fully implement sexual gender-based violence policies and laws by adopting a GBV indicator in the government performance contracting framework to track duty bearers, accountability, and enforcement and implementation of gender-based violence laws and policies. Governments need to invest more resources on gender-based violence prevention and not forgetting issues around menstrual hygiene and menopause. Governments need to ratify and implement the International Labour Organization Convention 190 on elimination of gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work by 2026. It is important also to call upon our governments to make sure that they adopt and operationalize the multisectoral Generation Equality Forum leadership structure comprising of the national advisory committees, national steering committees, and the county leadership structure in order to guide the implementation of the National Generation Equality Forum commitments in the GBV action, call for action. As a man, today, I conclude by saying that we don't lose anything when we support women agenda. Let us all support this cause to ensure that we prevent all sorts of gender-based violence, including discrimination against menstrual health management and menopause. Because through our support, we are all going to make sure we have safe space for everyone. Dignified menstruation, dignified menopause is important for the sustainability and fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals across nations. Thank you.